Ignition sequence start. 0 running.
So, welcome to the workshop on information and communication technologies applied to education. I'm Elisabeth, associate professor in computer science at the IAE Lyon. I'm in charge of the integration of technologies in education. And the objective of the workshop today is to exchange between us and about our practices of technologies and how we can integrate them in our courses, because I think that it's complicated, a little bit complicated for all of us, and maybe if we can exchange how we can integrate it and what are the advantages and disadvantages maybe of technologies, it can be very interesting for us, I think. So today we will have some presentations. So I thank the presenters who have volunteered to present their practices today. And we will have 5 presentations. A presentation of Diane-Gabrielle Tremblay about implementing a MOOC issues and challenges. A presentation of Pei Chi LII, that's it, from Tamkang University in Taiwan about facilitating class interactions through technology. A presentation from Alfred Marcus, but he's not here now, so I hope he will arrive. And a presentation of Bonnie Canziani about using an online survey system to facilitate business student team projects. And finally, presentation of Corinne Forgues, which is a teacher in the IAE Lyon, and she will talk about flipped classroom and their application to refresher courses. So if you have questions and if you want to exchange between each presentation, it's open, because we are here to discuss, and if it's better to discuss after each presentation, we can do so, because we have time to discuss after, but I think we are not so many people, so we can benefit from it. So I will give the turn to Diane-Gabrielle Tremblay.
Okay, so I'll start with maybe a little general introduction before I actually present the MOOC, which we did last summer at our university. So I'll start by my name is Diane-Gabrielle Tremblay. I'm from Université, Université du Québec. Université is part of University of Quebec, State University, specialized in e-learning and distance education. So all our courses are either online, well, most of them now are majoritarily online, and they can have different formats. We use video, television, etc., etc. There are, to a certain extent, like 2 types of distance education universities, just to put it very largely. One, which is the campus university, which uses some of the same types of instruments. Of course, more and more campus universities now are using Moodle, but of course in a very different way. It's kind of a complement to the teaching. The difference is that we do what is called asynchronous distance education. That is, I'm not being filmed and students throughout Quebec are watching me. This exists also. University of Quebec in Rimouski and Chicoutimi, for example, do this. Our university, the students do the course, do the activities when they want, as they want. So that's why we call it asynchronous. They don't have to be there, and I don't have to be there at the same time. And we also work the students are completely autonomous when they're working. And we have tutors. So I design a course, I hire some tutors to help out the students who have questions, whatever, because in some of my courses I can have 1,000 students. So obviously I won't have them all emailing me. I receive enough And so we work also with a team of specialists. We have people specialized in graphics, in multimedia. We also have education specialists who help us with the pedagogical dimensions. Actually, I was teaching campus before, and I have to recognize that teaching distance education actually kind of gives you a crash course in pedagogy, which you don't necessarily have when you're teaching at university. You're specialized in a field, not necessarily in pedagogy. So we have to look at this a little bit more. Myself, I use a lot of video because I teach human resources management mainly, so labor economics, innovation, work organization. Well, in management, we often use case studies. Here, the advantage is that I can, for example, go in a company, do interviews, put it together as a documentary, and have this online for my students. The change over time, mainly, and this also in the MOOC is the reality, but it already maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we started doing it to a certain extent this way. Initially, we were really doing a documentary with a traditional form, a beginning, then the case study, and then the end. Over recent years, what I tend to do is often put the interviews online. So, for example, week 1, I'll have what does this and this and this person say on this theme. Week 2, I can have what does, again, all this group of specialists, experts, what do they have to say. Then I can have a case study on the side that students will look at. So there's maybe more, I would say there's more freedom in the mode of teaching now, because we can have the case study, we can have something which is kind of linear, but we can also have another way to look at the material, which is, as I mentioned, on a theme, what does everybody say? But another option is, I did this interview with this person. The student can maybe also look at the whole interview if the student wants to. So yeah, we've been using technology over recent years, and what we find, about 1/3 of our students are actually campus students somewhere else in University of Quebec, and they're coming to us to do specific courses. For example, I have a course on work-family issues, which is not very common, a full course on work-family issues, and so they come to us to do these types of courses. What we find, and what the students even and colleagues tell us, is that after they have done distance education courses and courses online, they sometimes have requests when they're on campus towards the way the prof is using Moodle. They'll say, well, you know, you could also do this, you could also do that, because they saw it in our course. So they bring that back after that in campus. Maybe another thing I should mention, I think, is to a certain extent a new role for us as a professor. I'm quite comfortable with the video, but I have colleagues who are not as comfortable with video, and especially with the MOOC, it's even more important. Obviously, you can do e-learning and distance education without using video. However, for a MOOC, it's almost impossible. Otherwise, it can be pretty boring. And I know that some of my education specialists who were specialists of the MOOC gave us a certain number of examples of different types of MOOCs. And some of them, you know, that I looked at, even I looked at it and I thought, ooh, I wouldn't sit in front of this very long. And what we did also realize is that the presence of the professor is very important. In the forum, for example, that actually increases the participation of students and the number who will go on to the end, because the big challenge with MOOCs is to keep people to the end. I wanted to just mention this aspect. In the mid-September, we sent out information in different places saying, we're having a MOOC coming out. We had 2 actually, one on history of Quebec and mine, which is on work, family, and work-life issues. And so a lot of people email, it's free. So a lot of people email in and say, yes, I'm interested and I'm going to follow. We had about 5,000 people say they were interested in the various courses. Then when we sent out another email to say, okay, October, we had told them it's going to start around mid-October, we sent an email to say, it's starting now. Then we had about 1,000 students in each of the courses. And at the end, we had maybe 400, 500 who went all the way to the end and went even, some of them asked for the certificate, because you can have a certificate if you do the work and you get a certain so this, actually, our education specialist said that the number of people who stayed on with us to the end was a little bit higher than average, than what was found in the MOOCs in general. And their explanation is partly our interventions. They say it's always important, and clearly the fact that I was present a few times on the forum to either respond to a student or add some information, and also present in the video presentations, and at the end of, it's a 5-week MOOC, at the end of each week's presentation, I would say, okay, now I have questions for you, think about this, and I'm going to be with you on the forum. We'd like to have your reaction, your thoughts, and the forum worked very, very well in both of the courses. So it's a bit of a different role that we have as a professor. You do the research, you write up certain things, you give information, you give material. It's very close to a distance education course, but you have to be more present. At least that's the suggestion that we got, and I think it seems to be true because we did get a good participation, is you have to be there to present. And at the same time, our education specialists also said, you don't do a 1-hour conference. It has to be broken up. At one point, they even said 5 minutes, and I said, look, I mean, these are people who are doing something. If I'm watching TV, I can watch a documentary for half an hour. And in my mind, I have students, but I also have people here who just want to learn about a subject. And in my view, I thought, well, you know, they can watch a documentary for half an hour or even an hour, so maybe they can go beyond the 5 minutes. But apparently in the specialized literature, they tend to go to the 2, 3, 5 minutes. I actually did presentations that were more, maybe 10 minutes, an introduction. So my theme in 1 week was broken up. I do 10 minutes, and then they do some quiz and they research and read other things. Then I come back for another 10, 15 minutes. So it's kind of broken up in that way. So it brings us to do things that we're not necessarily used to doing. The two colleagues, the two of us who did the MOOCs this summer, both of us had already experience with video. So we were comfortable with the camera, with speaking to the camera directly, with presenting things, etc. Which is important because, of course, we actually spent a lot of time on this. So before investing and thinking of doing a MOOC, that's another element that has to be considered. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of energy. Not just from me, but also from the video team, from the education specialist who helped us with the quiz, etc., etc. So it's something which is relatively costly, and at the same time, it's something which the universities give out for free. So there's a bit of a challenge there. And I think the idea, what we saw at our university, and what other universities have said, is often people do it. It's part of a marketing element. And as a distance education university, for us, it was like we cannot not be present there. We have to be there. So there's a part of a marketing, and the idea is that some people who didn't know about us discovered us there. We are online, and in general, we are called TILUC for Université, but shorter. And for this, we were called U Libre, as Open University in English, if you want. And so people discovered Université, TILUC with this. Yeah, so I mentioned the fact, doing videos, editing, I mean, partly, of course, you're working with a communications team, but I'm the one who knows what is the content that I really want to put there. And also, sometimes what took time was also, we had videos behind me. Well, sometimes I find that my content is perfect. And they say, you know, we didn't change the picture in the right time, etc. Those are things that I think we should be looking over in the future, because it's a little bit annoying when you say, you know, for me, what's really important is the content, but at the same time, you can't have something completely different in the screen behind you. So that's a bit of a challenge in terms of you're really working together with a bigger team. But it's a great experience. I spent a lot of time, more time than I would have expected, and the team, the same thing. At the end they said, oof, we're going to take a little bit of a break because all sorts of things happen. Technically things went generally very well, but for example, students on the forum worked very well. But do I have time to be full-time, almost, you know, really checking what the students are saying? No. So we had somebody doing this, and what she would do is she would write to me, look, there's a comment here, you should maybe respond to this. A lot of things the students are exchanging, or you know, the learners are exchanging between themselves, and this is really interesting. On the work-family issue, we had people, I should mention where people were from. Actually, we had about 50% people from Canada, probably majority from Quebec, actually. And we had also about 15% from France, 10% from Belgium, 10% from the Maghreb, and 7% from Francophone Africa. So interesting also in terms of who you reach. People are everywhere. So in a forum, you have a man from Africa, and you have a woman from BC, a Francophone from BC, and you have somebody from Belgium, and you have all these comments. In the beginning, we asked them to present themselves. So this is This is actually the site. You don't see it very well. And somehow it comes out bigger here, so we don't see everything that normally we do see. But, you know, I've signed in, etc. Let's say this is my first module. To the left, you have module 0, presentation of the course, presentation of the platform, because people have to know, you know, where do I click, what do I do? They're not necessarily used to this. We have something which is called tour guidé de la plateforme, so we show them around. Of course, if we always have this platform and people follow different courses over time, they're not going to be asking questions and worry. But in the beginning, you have to kind of show them around. So you present the course, and then we have a survey here, profil du participant. We ask them to present themselves very shortly, a couple of elements. And every week or almost, we actually introduce something which we don't necessarily put in our courses. Here we have jeu questionnaire. So it's actually they fill in, of course on work family it can be quite interesting. They fill in, you know, what is the division of labor between me and my husband. Here we tell them, this is not something which will be graded. It's just so that, you know, it's a way to engage them in the subject. And actually that's one of the, I think we tend to be doing more active teaching and learning over the years. Here you kind of have to push it a little bit further and not be too transmissive, you know, not just give, as in France you would call un cours magistral. If you do that, well, people are going to be turned off by the content. So here we have a certain number of elements in this game questionnaire which came from the media. And then we have the forum where we say, okay, you've gone through this questionnaire. It's made you think about a certain number of things. For example, I spend enough time doing this and that. I often feel that I should be doing things and I don't have time to do them. I don't have enough time for my family. So it's this kind of thing, you know, get into the subject in a kind of fun way and you're not graded. And then after this, we say, okay, for the forum, go online, go on the forum and present yourself. And so here we had people saying, well, we asked them also why are they taking the course. We had about half and half. A lot of people in human resources management, of course, saying, I'm taking the course because it's in my field and there aren't very many courses on this and this is free. So for example, a lot of African women said, well, you know, this is great for me because we don't have such quality courses and we don't have that much material online, so this gives me a super access. And then we divide it into 5 modules. So the first was kind of the introduction up there to the left that you have. Module 0, presentation of everything. It's really the first week. Then Module 1, what is work-family balance or work-family articulation? What does it mean? Module 2, consequences. We spent a lot of time. You know, my colleagues who are education specialists said, oh, but Diane, you have a course on this, so don't worry, it won't take much time. You've got all the material, you've got a book, you've got videos. We'll take this and in no time we'll have the MOOC. Well, reality was quite different from that. I spent a lot of evenings and weekends so that we would be on time. Never regretted it, but you have to really think that, yes, it's a lot of time. And also, I had experience with video. People who not necessarily have experience with videos might find it even longer because more takes have to be done and done and done all over again. So we were lucky. That for us, that wasn't too much of an issue. So 5 modules, that's also kind of a rule of the MOOCs, 5 or 6 weeks, not much more than that, because I didn't put this online, but this is the curve. You know, people are there in the beginning and it goes down. So the longer it is, it would go on going down. So if you want to still have people at the end, you have to stop at some point. And these are people who are taking this, not necessarily, they won't necessarily ask for the certificate in the end. But I had a student, they're very, very motivated. One of them says to me at week 3, my computer doesn't work anymore, what can I do? And so I said, well, you know, either you try to get it fixed quickly. In the end, she bought a new computer to follow the course. And at the end, she was disappointed because she only had 40% right answers in the quiz. But from the beginning, I had told them, and I had even told our team, they wanted to have like 5 weeks closed. And I said, no, it's got to be a bit longer. First of all, the subject is work-family balance. Sometimes people are out of balance for a week or 2. So we had it open for 8 weeks. But it's interesting for people to follow each week because then the forum is really on this subject and they can participate more actively, although it never disappears. It's always there. So we have these different modules here. If I look into module 1, Then, as you see, that's what I said. It's really divided into bits and pieces. So each module I presented, and then here, what is work family? A quiz. Quiz, that's where they get the points, and they know every week where they are. Up at the top there, we see it that, I won't go in there, progression, that's where they get their note. I won't go in there because as I wasn't doing the quizzes, I got 0, of course. So I don't want you to see this. And then here, information, I can add some information. Discussion is more where we see the forum between people. Then here, I have a book on this. We had to negotiate with the editor. We had managed to put 2 chapters online. And then to the right completely, we have resources, other complementary resources. So each week, I also give them some information, but then if they want to look things up in a more general way, they go to complementary resources or supplementary resources, and they find this. Now, if I go to the left, the first module, so presentation, here is normally where we have the video. I don't know whether it's going to come in well here, but normally it should. Because of course it's, oh no, that one's a, yeah, we have the written module. Ah, yeah, here. And so people just click and yeah, it's a presentation. We had also done a 2-minute promotion clip. Now again, time consuming. To do 2 minutes, we spent a whole day filming throughout Montreal because you have to do it kind of, you know, really quality as people will expect on TV. So we had shots like 30 seconds here, 30 seconds, oh, let's go downtown and do something. So from that point of view also, it's expensive and time consuming. I'm not, maybe the bandwidth is not strong enough to have it come through, I don't know. But in any case, it gives you an idea of how it's, yeah, it seems to. Maybe I don't have necessarily the video, the sound here. Yeah, so this is it. We're not hearing things, but so here we're in the studio, which is the easier part because there's no wind, there's no people coming beside you. You know, when we did this thing outside, you say, ah, la prise est bonne, it's perfect. You've got, and then the camera person says, oh no, somebody went by you and he went like this behind you. I said, oh, okay. So things like this happened, and one time it was hugely windy and my hair was like all over the place. So I said, wow. So these are things, you know, that you don't have in a classroom. And at one point we said, well, we're going to do a lot of things in our own studio. So I'm presenting, and then we have these images in the back, and that's what sometimes posed problems. And one thing I learned, I did something else later which was similar, and I said to the video people, we're going to put general images, because the idea was that I wanted to be natural. I didn't want to be reading. Of course, that's another option. I could be reading from the camera, have my script there, and be reading that, but that's not quite as natural. And you can do that more when you're going to be saying something and then say, well, let's listen to so-and-so, as they do on TV, you know. But when you want to be presenting directly, I find it's much better. What I did is I had actually my PowerPoint beside the camera, so I would look at it once in a while, but I wasn't reading the PowerPoint. So of course I would sometimes, you know, as when you're doing a conference or a course, ideas come to your mind, and so you're a little bit longer here, a little bit shorter there. Well, when her pictures were too close to exactly, if I'm talking about nurses and suddenly, whoops, she's got the policeman behind and the nurse comes in after. So when we did this afterwards, I said, let's have more general pictures so that I can be comfortable and you're also comfortable. And you don't say, that was a great take, but unfortunately, the pictures weren't right. So that gives you, I think, pretty much the idea of what we did. I don't think there was anything else I needed to add, just that it was definitely a very, very nice and interesting experience. But now the university is looking at it and thinking, well, what do we do from now? Do we do more of this? It's quite costly. One of my courses is coming out later because the education specialist who should have worked on my regular course was working on this, as I was. So that's the issue. I think it's very interesting, and maybe also, yeah, maybe this, I'll conclude on this. They had said, oh, we want you to do on this theme, you have the course, all the material is there. I had actually suggested, look, I'm working on this course, this other course on the knowledge economy, and I said, I'm now finalizing it. Maybe we could kind of do them simultaneously. And that is actually an idea that we're going to take back for the future. When I look at this, even now, we're saying, well, either we present it again as a MOOC. Now, do we have somebody to do the animation or to check what's happening on the forum? That's important. And that takes somebody and it takes money. Or another option, we're actually going to have like two products coming out of this. One is the educational TV says, oh, well, you know, why don't you do something? Put all the videos together and do something. And we'd like to have maybe a half an hour or an hour on this theme. And also in continuing education. We could take elements here and develop something in more formally in terms of continuing education. So here it could be like a half day, a day, and for a lot of professionals who have to do like 10 or 20 hours of training per year or something to keep their accreditation, well, these people could follow things like this. For example, the Professional Association of Human Resources Specialists in Quebec, we have to do 60 hours of training over 3 years. It can be things like going to a conference, reading, whatever. Obviously, actually, we did get an accreditation from the Professional Association of Human Resources Managers, so I had a lot of people, human resources managers, who were there. And interestingly, I was saying, why did they take the course? About half were really more professional reasons, and about half, or maybe a little bit less, 1/3 were just, you know, I'm interested in the subject. And then another group, the other group was both. I'm actually in HR, but I don't work on this issue, so I'm interested from a personal point of view, and I'm also interested as an HR manager. So that's it. So I don't know if you want to ask a few questions, or how do you want to?
I have one. Do students pay for the certificate in the end?
In our case, no. I know that in the US, in a lot of universities that have done MOOCs, what they say is that if you want to have the certificate, you pay. For us, in this case, no. We just asked them to have, in all the quiz that they did throughout, they had to have a note of 60%. So it's just, you know, it's a little certificate, it's not a university degree, but we found that students were very interested in it. So, and it's true that some universities say, well, and even TILUC is considering, we're going to be analyzing you know, everything that happened, the time it took, the money it cost. And we could, in the end, say, exactly as many universities do, if you want the certificate, then we'll ask you to pay. And then, of course, the range of the amount they can pay is very wide. Then the question is, do I still want to have, oh, I forgot to mention Haiti. A lot of people from Haiti were following the course, Francophones in Haiti. So, you know, Francophone Africa, Haiti, Vietnam, that's the issue. Do you want to just give your course to people who can pay for it? It's a question. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you just mentioned the key point is the students' motivation. Because we in Tamkang University, we tried this long distance course about 15 years ago. And I think the first long distance course is from me. Okay, about the technology, I mean, information technology person helped me to design the course. I give them the material, and they have all those animations and everything, and they film me about 30 minutes for one subject. Then I have to tell everybody that this is a good, you know, a teaching method, and you know, just to get your students, you know, they have the freedom to learn. They can go to the classes whenever they want, and you know, just. Each week we have a topic for them, okay, and they can go to you know, go to the computer, go to the internet, and whatever they want to do. And after 10 years, I give it up because we require students to take these courses, right? And some of them just don't have that motivation to learn. You know, for undergraduate students, you know, they are here for fun. They don't want to come to classes. And if we offer them long distance course, I really feel that I don't have any control for, you know, how much they learn from me. So after 10 years, you know, I give up this idea. But I think for Diane's case is very good because the students' motivation is high, you know. And I think I just have this type of problems, you know, related to long distance course if we want to offer that to our regular full-time student, you know, and you know, they are here for the degree, and some of the MBA students, they only want that degree, and long distance course won't do them any good. I think that's my point of view.
Yeah, actually, as you mentioned, the motivation is the main element. I sometimes actually found that these students were almost more motivated than my students in the class. Because as you say, they're there for the degree, and sometimes, you know, if you have like a seminar style, even in a master's course, HRM master's course, where they're supposed to be reading and then we're discussing, sometimes you find they haven't read and they're just passively sitting there. So here, the big difference is, like, as I mentioned, we have 1/3 students who are campus students. These come because either they get a theme in our university, like work life or a few others, that they don't have, or that is not given at that session. And often they'll say, well, I can go a little bit faster. And some of them in the evaluations, they say, well, we learn new skills that we need in the company and when we're in the labor market after. Then our other 2/3, yeah, they are adult students. And they, for example, have already been in sometimes they already have a bachelor's. They're coming to pick up something else, either a certificate or another bachelor or a degree, not master's or whatever. And they are very, very motivated. I had, you know, whereas here I was negotiating, the students were saying, oh, well, can we do 5 pages instead of 10? Well, here I had the opposite. They're supposed to be doing 10 pages and they send in these huge things because they get into the subject. So there's kind of the two extremes. We have the same thing. If they're motivated, they're there and they do it. And what I think in the US I had read a document or an article on the fact that some universities that offer both distance learning, e-learning, or campus, you can do both. Sometimes they are finding, and some colleagues were a little bit worried because they said the e-learning courses with the young people are being filled before. And for us, we don't have this issue of the course being filled in the sense that I have tutors. But a lot of colleagues who are on a campus university, they are the ones who are the tutors. So if you're a tutor for 20 or 40 or 60 students, it's quite different. And we are, in our university, professors do a bit of tutoring. So for example, when I have a new course, I design a new course, I'll be a tutor in that course to know, you know, what's going on, are there problems, are there issues, and I can discuss this with the other tutors. So yeah, that's a big difference. And then after a couple of sessions, if everything's going well and I'm working more on designing a new course, I can say, well, okay, this course, I know it's going well, so I go on to the next one. But yeah, I think, you know, if there's no motivation, students don't learn. And in terms of control, in social sciences or language courses, the motive evaluation is not always the same. It's not all, there's very often it's work that people do at home and at the master's level as well. But in management, for our students to be more recognized by their employer or to be able to go into a master's somewhere else or whatever, we have exams, classroom exams. 1 month, one weekend a month, one Saturday a month, in many high schools or colleges throughout Quebec. We have classrooms like this where we have somebody, I'm not sitting there, somebody is surveilling, but one student's doing a communication exam, the other one's doing an HR exam, the other one's doing a language exam. That's good too because they can't copy on the other. Or if they do, the answers are wrong. So yeah, in terms of controlling what they learned, that's how we see it. And also the tutors get feedback.
What's your tutor-student ratio?
Actually, it depends on what they're doing. We have some tutors now who are full-time tutors. They're actually unionized. Some tutors are people who are working, like in my case in HR, they can be working in the labor department, things like this, and they do this on top. So maybe they determine if they take 30 students or 60 students per session. They're paid per student to do the correction, to answer the phone, to answer the emails, whatever. What we see is that for the 3 first courses, when it's new for the students, they tend to call the tutors, not so much for content, if your course is well done. And my tutors tend to say that in general, my courses are pretty complete. I have a book. That's also another difference. I tend to, I have written a lot of books, so it's really what I want to say. I'm not, you know, picking up bits and pieces and there's kind of something in between that I haven't said. So I have a book, I have a video. They really know what I think and what I want to say. And so the tutors, then we have full-time tutors. I think they can go up to 200 students per year or something like this, or per session. But so, for the 3 first sessions, they're going to call with questions on, well, yeah, how does it work? What kind of questions in the, the typical, what questions in the exam? They're a bit more worried about the formula, or they didn't find something, or I didn't receive the documentation. Well, no, you don't receive the documentation because everything's online. And when you're referring to the format, in the beginning, I would send out books, and the students would go on educational TV. Then we sent out books with video cassettes. Then we sent out books with CDs. Then with DVDs, with a lot more video on it then. And now, essentially, we're online in a different way. So the formats have really changed. And usually, after 3 courses, they don't have that many questions, except if they have a very good tutor. And I also get feedback from students who will, clearly say, well, and for us, it's important. We try to, although since they're unionized, they, of course, don't want any type of evaluation. We have to discuss these issues with them. But we get feedback from students sometimes who say, look, I've been calling him or I've emailed him. They're supposed to answer within 48 hours, and I have no answers after a week. The person is, if they go on holidays, obviously they can take a vacation, but they have to say so. And if it's more than 2 weeks, we'll eventually replace them with somebody else. So normally the tutors are quite available. They don't have that many questions from the students, but some tutors are particularly popular because they engage in conversations and they're more knowledgeable. Like, some of them...
Are the tutors assigned to the courses or to the students? I'm trying to understand.
Usually they want to intervene in different... I personally would prefer to have tutors who have more of my students in one given course. However, in terms of job stability, because sometimes you redesign the course so it disappears. So for them, their logic is stability of numbers and of their income, of course. So if I have a given course, well, let's say we have 10 students who register this week. Well, these 10 students go out to this tutor. Then there's another 10, they go to the other. So it's kind of, equalization, and then it comes back to the first one. But at the same time, this first tutor has other courses. So usually they'll have like maybe 5 or 6 courses. And if they're in 5 or 6 of my courses, well, they kind of know my approach in general. So yeah, that's the way we function.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I think tutors are important because based on my experiences, if I have 30 to 40 students and have a case study on the internet and I have questions, and every student, because it is going to be on record, so every student is going to answer your question. And you have to read their responses on the internet, and you have to make responses to them. And I type a lot of, I do a lot of typing every day. And a lot of faculty in my university, they say, well, this is easy because you only film half an hour. And you don't have to do, any other thing.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I am in front of my computer every hour, every day, because I have responses. So tutors are, another key issue here.
Yeah.
You said that you have about 1,000 students who start the course.
In the MOOC, there was there were 5,000 interested. 2,000 or so registered and started, and in the end about half of that, which is apparently a good rate, because in many cases sometimes it would go down to 10%.
Have tutors for this 2,000?
Well, in the MOOC we didn't have tutors. But in our regular courses, yes, and those, well, they can finish or not finish. Often the possibility they have is they can extend, they can do the exam 1 month later if something's happening in their personal life and they're not available. But at our university we have about altogether 18,000 students. And so, yeah, there's a good number, I don't know, maybe 1,000 tutors. Some of them take more students, some of them take less. Also, if you're at the master's level, they're paid a little bit more. They're actually called a little bit differently too, because they're going to be doing different things. They're going to correct, it's not so much question and answer in a classroom. They're going to be correcting written papers and things like this, and, reacting, giving information to the students. So it's a different type of job there. There we really need people who know the content even better. It's not just, because at the bachelor's level, sometimes you have people who have done a social science or who have done management in general. They never did work life, but if they read the book and they have guidelines to correct the work of the students, they can manage. But at the master's level, then they really, I expect them to know and I'm going to be choosing actually mainly PhDs and postdocs who are working with me, who really are close to the field and can react to the students almost as easily as I can. Yeah. Thank you.
It's here. Here? Yes. Return? Okay, all right. Okay, well, one of the things is that if I want to use this technique, I need to have some, I need the speed of internet matters. Okay. All right, this is the website here. They call it Socrative. And it's free now, but I don't know. Maybe sometime in the future we have to pay to use this platform. Okay? And this is their student login, and this is teacher login. And I have an account. I have an account here. All right. If you are interested in this software, oops. Numbers. How do I get numbers from this keyboard? Get numbers.
The numbers.
Control. This one.
And this one.
This one. All right. Good. All right. I got it. Thank you. And at, and that.
This one?
Oh yeah, thank you. All right.
That's it.
W here. Okay. All right, student can log in to this website, and they just type in the room number, the number of the classroom, because I have a number for my classroom. Okay, let's just wait. Still working on it. Okay. Yeah, it's very friendly. It tells you what it is doing. And after they type in the number, and the software will ask them to type in their names. Okay. So if you're a student, you type in the number of my room is 317693. Then next they will ask you to type in their names or IDs or anything else. Okay. And you can start a quiz here. And this is my classes. This is my classes from back in Taiwan. And we can have student paste, and student navigation. And I always have teacher paste. And if I start a quiz, I need to go down. Yeah. If I start a quiz, and it has the questions. I'm sorry. Yeah. Get it to expand that.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. If I start a quiz, and this is my first question. If you are in my classroom, it will show here how many students. Okay, I have 10 students. Like I have 10 students here. Then it's 10 of 10. Then the first questions, students can use their mobile phone, their computers, or anything. Okay, if they can get into the internet, they can answer the questions, give me some responses, and it will show here. I can say show answers. Normally, I won't show names. Okay, show answers, and their answers are here. Every answer. Okay, and the good thing about it is that in the end of the class, when I log out, the software can send me a report on each and every student's responses. Okay, what they are and what their opinions are. Okay, so this is the software, and I'm going to express my experiences on using this software. I got this idea 2 years ago from that conference in Florence. Okay, now I need to go back to my.
Yes, I help you. Good. Okay.
Okay, good. All right, and I need to get this
Yes,
expanded. It's here.
Yeah.
I got it. There you go. Okay. All right. Okay, so the course I'm teaching is business ethics, and you know every question is related to personal values. So this is even better for them to make some responses. Okay, because their classmates won't know what answer goes to whom. Okay, so in the level is MBA and EMBA courses, and my student size is 20, probably less than 20. Okay, 15 to 20, and my teaching material is this case book. Okay, so we have cases. Students read their cases before they come to the class, and I will have my questions listed on that Socrative. Okay, and so they just make their responses using their mobile phone or computers. Okay, and this is their responses. This is the report. Okay, this is in Chinese though. Okay, this is the report. All right. Okay, and every student, their number, their ID, and the first question, the second question, the third question, the fourth questions. Okay, I have them all. All right. So it's if you want to evaluate students' performance and you want to see their participation, is right here. Okay. And maybe this is one of the reasons why that they will have participation, and they are forced to have participation. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
And their answers, is it correct, or is it just like a game for them?
There is no right or wrong answers. Are you asking this question? Yeah.
Is it, do they really think about the question and
well, I will let you, I will let you know this, okay? Because based on my experiences, I have some various observations, okay, from my students. I'll get to that in my later presentation, okay? Well, this is just the students' responses, the reports, okay? I get from this software. Okay, and these are selected responses from my student. The questions is, should the ARC screen volunteers? The American Red Cross, okay, should they screen volunteers? And these are their questions. Some of the students, they said no need. Everyone is entitled to help others. Okay, they are criminals. They are they are thieves. They committed crimes. It doesn't matter. Okay, this is their responses. And yes, should not allow criminals to be volunteers. I have some responses from the other student, okay? And no, as long as they have basic moral values, okay? And yes, only those with good intentions. These are the answers from the first question, okay? And nobody knows what question comes from which student, okay? And after this is one drawback here. They won't say anything. I said, well, let's go deep into this. And they probably will go back to their silence. Okay, they only want to type. They don't want to talk when I use this software. Okay, I don't know if that's the characteristic of Chinese student or they always want to type in their answers. They don't want to talk it out in public. Okay. And this is the selected responses from my students. So they have various responses. I think they can really say what they want to say. Okay? And these are the feedbacks from students. In the end of the course, in the end of the semester, we have teachers' evaluations, and they need to write something down for the course, and this is their responses, some of the responses. I like Socrative because I can freely express my ideas. This is, their feedback, and the good discussions from the use of Socrative, very high tech. Okay, and this class could produce genuine responses from the classmates. Their experiences and good class interactions. Okay, because for Chinese students, we are pretty shy. Okay, we ask them questions. They just, I look at them, they look at their desk. Okay, all right, and I walk toward them, they leave the classroom. Okay, so, well, I was kidding. They won't do that. They will not do that. Okay, they will not do that. All right, but anyway, they are very shy to express their ideas in public. Okay, but this helps them to to get their ideas and okay. And feedback from students, they are highly satisfied with this class interactions, and they say thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate. Okay, and for all my MBA classes, this is the only one I can't wait to come to. This is from one of my students, okay? Because I think he's freely to speak up, not speak up, but he can freely express his ideas, okay? And Socrates is novel. It stimulates my thinking and highly recommended to other students. So from the students' point of view, I think they are pretty satisfied with this software program. It's a 2 hours class, okay? So this is students' feedback, but from my own experiences, first is it takes time for students to respond because they have to, type in, all right? And if they are using mobile phone and that little one, they have to, okay? So it takes a lot of time for them to have responses. But on the other hand, it's probably good because they can always think before they make their responses, okay? And it's not suitable to group discussions, okay? Because when somebody posted their responses and I said, well, let's have a group discussion on this comment, and nobody give me any responses unless I ask them to use their mobile phone, okay? And students only participated through Socrates, right? They don't give me face-to-face interactions. And one observations I have is pretty funny, is that students, for example, I ask students, is profit everything for an organization? And I observed one student in public. He says, well, profit should be everything. Profit is the key for the organization. In public, he will have this type of expressions, but in private, it's different. Okay? I'm not sure. Maybe, well, my guess is that in public, he's going with the other students. But in private, he's probably have different ideas. Okay, that's my guessing. I don't ask him, why is it, you have different opinions in public and in private? And that might answer some of your questions if, they give me genuine answers from this Socrates. Okay? And my other observations is that it's domination of some students in free discussions still, okay? Students participate. If they want to participate, they participate. If they don't, they still don't in public, okay? And the eagerness of students, I can see they're very excited to come to the class. Okay, they're very excited to express their responses, okay? And they can wait. They cannot wait to see the questions I have for them about the case, okay? And English teaching materials might be a minus, okay? Because it's different language. We use Chinese, and my teaching material is in English, and my question is in English, so might be a problem for them. And the major issue is you cannot have too many students in this class, because it really takes time for every one of them, okay? And sometimes I say, well, we stop And some students still sending answers. No, give me some more time, okay? I still want to express my ideas, all right? And this is my observation. But normally, I think this is a good, for me personally, I think this is a good method for me to teach this course, especially if it's about personal values. And this course is business ethics, okay? All right. And the concluding remarks is technology helps, of course, okay, in terms of interactions, student and me, between student and me, and equipment matters because the speed of the internet, okay, and how easily they can get on to the internet, and the computers and mobile phones. If they don't have the mobile phones, then it's useless, okay, so equipment matters. Okay? And learning effectiveness remains to be seen. I don't know if they really learn something, but at least we have some interactions in the teaching hour, and student motivation is still the key. Okay? All right. All right. So this is my presentation about on using this software program. Okay? Do I have any comment or any questions or any? This is very, I personally, I'm very satisfied with this software program. I'm sorry?
Is it a free software?
Right now, it is free. Right now, it is free. I don't know. This is the second edition. The first one, they have more functions now. Okay? It's still free. Okay, when they say, well, when they send me an email and say we have we have developed more functions on this software program, I was afraid that I'm going to pay. I'm going to pay for this now. Okay, but it is still free, right at this time.
You have used it 2 times?
2 semesters.
2 semesters.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years back, I got this idea from that conference in Florence. Yes.
I know that there's a difference in terms of using it immediately as feedback to show them what they know. Mm-hmm. Is there a difference in using it for closed questions versus the open ones you showed?
Oh, yes. Well, they have different options that you can have. They have multiple choices. You can have multiple choices, and they will show the percentage of each response. Okay, and they can have closed responses just for you, just for.
When you have a lot of, let's say you have 30 students in a class,
right,
and you have a lot of open-ended, how do you process that? Does it take a lot of time for you to figure out, all right, because it's not going to line up percentage that said this.
Right. Well, I only have less than 20 students, so it's easier, yeah, for me to organize everything. Okay, and that is the key. Another key is that I really don't think we can have too many students in this class if we want to use this.
Online,
right. Yeah.
And how does it work? You have the software on the screen, and as soon as they answer, you see the answer on the screen?
Yes.
So everybody sees what, for example, the first person answered already.
Right. Yes. Right. And they can make responses based on the first response also, or they can express their own ideas. Okay, but normally, because every student starts write their responses simultaneously, so probably the first round is their own ideas. And after I ask each student to read their ideas, other students' ideas, they can have, further responses. And one of the things you just mentioned that the screen is not big enough. So I have to go up, go down, go up, go down all the time.
Okay, so
all right.
All
right.
How do you use that? Do you launch it at the beginning of the class, and then you have a regular class after that? Is it the class? Is it at the end of the class? How do you? When do you launch that?
In the very beginning of the class.
At the beginning?
Yeah. And students know that if I teach business ethics, they know I'm going to use this software program.
When you teach, 3 hours in a row?
2 hours.
2 hours?
Yes.
And you use that for the 2 hours?
Yes, 2 hours. 2 hours. I have 4 or 5 or 6 questions, okay? And really, for one question, for them to make responses, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And everybody look at other students' responses, and they make, feedbacks on those responses, and it takes time. Okay. It really takes time.
The first lesson, first class.
Yes, first class.
And next week?
Next week is the next case. Another case, another subject. Okay, we have probably 10 or 12 subjects in our business ethics course. Okay.
Do you have a summary, or do you have?
Yes, I have to make some summary based on their responses. I have to give them some. I still have to give out lectures, if that is your question. Yes, right. Okay. And sometimes I felt I don't have enough time to give them my lectures because and you really have that really puts you in an awkward situation because you want to have your lectures or you want to have them to have time to make responses. You have to make a choice.
And you give them materials before the course?
Yes, yes. The cases before the course, but not the question, not the questions about the case. Okay. And I try this here, in this international seminar, okay? Because my students, when I ask them questions, I only have 2 or 3 students. They always have responses, but the others just watching. Okay? And I said, well, wait a minute, I have this software program. Let's try this. And I get this software program, and the first question, I got probably 10 responses. They use their mobile phone. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. And I'm Bonnie Canziani from North Carolina. I am presenting on the use of electronic surveys, and I've been using them for different reasons. Obviously, in research, we use those a lot now. But I have tried to use our university application. It is Qualtrics that they have decided to purchase, and Qualtrics is very useful. You may be familiar with different survey systems, but they all do the same thing. What I am doing with it is supporting our classes in the area of management and masters. What we're trying to do with a lot of our upper level classes is to do student consulting. And the student consulting is a big deal for our business school because our mission statement says that we are supposed to create hands-on opportunities for students to gain practice with business clients and businesses before they graduate. And I know that we do some internships, but not as many stages as you do. We have opted into having student groups being formed to work on problems and live cases with companies. We have international marketing courses that help local companies in North Carolina export their products, and they've actually been successful to the extent where products are really going abroad. We have, for example, I've worked with an MBA group. I do winery marketing, and I worked with an MBA group to develop a restaurant plan for a local Italian-American winery in North Carolina. We have over 150 wineries now, so it's actually a big deal for us. But the important part is how I've been using it lately. What I've been doing is using Qualtrics to capture some data about students before I form the groups. In forming groups, it's important to understand that you can't just count off. You know, if we have this number of people and I say, all right, we're going to have so many groups, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all the ones go over here. Well, when you are creating a group to work with clients, and you need to have a certain level of maturity and expertise, and you need to have skills that are complementing each other. For example, I try to get people who admit to being good at numbers or financial analysis, people who may have a good mannerism that they can interact with the client and be that liaison, another person who may have very good writing skills and will be what I call the finisher. So I've actually developed a survey that I send to students early in, explaining to them before they take the survey that this is their chance to get in the best group possible, to get a really good performance during the semester, to do a good job for the client, and so I'll mark them as high as I can mark them, okay? And I'm not sure exactly if if I want to switch to the let's see, give me a minute. I brought the survey over into my presentation, so I'll go through the survey, and then if we have a minute after, we can go back into the software itself. All right. So again, the purpose of my presentation today is to talk about how I'm using surveys to form the student teams for student consulting projects, and how I use it also to evaluate students, to have students do peer evaluations of each other. Because normally in our business school, we do a lot of student evaluations of each other's performance during group work, because we believe in this larger capture of data on performance, and that I'm not going to decide alone without other students if a student did a good job in the team. And so the first thing I'm showing you, really, most of these slides, is the actual survey that I built and provided to the students at the very beginning before I formed the groups. And I do form the groups based on this information, so I do micromanage the groups. The students are not able to come together with their friends. I mean, sometimes I try, and you'll see there's one question. But basically, I explained this semester we will be involved in teams for a marketing research project. And in this particular case, I was working with a client who wanted to turn his very nice house near campus into a guest house or bed and breakfast. And with this in mind, I decided to have all teams work on this with the same client in this particular course. And what they were going to do is do different aspects of the different marketing sources of information that they might need to know. And so I asked them to return this survey and give me honest answers, because I said, you know, this is your success. If you don't give me honest answers about your qualities and characteristics, I can't make good judgments in putting you together, and then you may not be successful as a student team. And then I basically, and I made sure I asked them for their name, so none of this is anonymous. I always know which student is giving me the information. I started off with a section that looks at the students' concerns about or students' beliefs about their own different abilities and competencies that are useful for putting together a project of this nature. So in a marketing research project, you need those competencies that I defined earlier, you know, numbers crunching and working with the client directly face-to-face, good communication, sophistication in clarifying what your research needs. And so the first set of questions are very basic but very important, and most of the questions are set up. Qualtrics is quite nice. It'll let you do different styles of questions, getting at the same thing of a Likert type rating scale. But I love to bump it up because Qualtrics has some fancy, bells and whistles, and so I tried to make the survey not boring, so I could show students that if perhaps they're going to use a survey in their own research for the course project, they shouldn't just be boring themselves when they're designing the survey. So and they appreciated it. So you see that I'm asking questions about I don't know if you can read it, but their statistics ability. I'm asking them practical questions about their familiarity with the location where this B&B is going to be presided. So this isn't a standardized question. I will change this up depending upon the course and the client project. But obviously, many of the styles and the intent of the questions will stay the same. It's just the information will vary. And then, their experience with business planning, with the industry that the client is in, their experience with research surveys. So I'm really trying to predict, in my mind, what I've seen over my many years of teaching that make for successful student performances on client-based projects. and trying to get as much information up front before we run into this, and I'm running around saying, oh, gee, you know, you don't know how to do net present value. Okay, so the next question, it's a little bit more personal, it's a little bit more psychological, but it's important to students to understand the quality, the personal characteristics that they're dealing with, and to try to not have everybody who says that they are inflexible. Now, I have had students admit they're inflexible. And, you know, I know students, I've had them for several courses, and I know which ones are inflexible and not you know, in terms of if it's not my way, nobody, you know, gets a choice. And it's important, though, to tell them, you know, to identify these things. Because if they put it down on paper, all of a sudden they're saying, all right, you know, maybe in the past I have been a little inflexible, and maybe this survey also up front kind of educates them that they could move a little more to the middle. And again, just simple things that you can think of, you know, am I a leader or a follower? Am I confident, not confident? And reliable, unreliable. And when you get this feedback, it's interesting. I think they were pretty honest because nobody really put 5s and nobody really put 1s. I mean, a couple people on the numbers put 1s, but I always get people who are numbers shy. And so the next question, let me go over here for a second if I may. The question of actual behavior and how they interact and react to the way other people are talking to them on the team. So I'm always willing to ask other team members for advice or help, that you're not a loner, you're not going to do it and never coordinate or communicate with other students. I usually accept criticism or feedback in a mature way, so the question of if another student partner tells you, I don't think you're thinking about it the right way, or I don't think those numbers look right, that they're, you know, telling us whether or not that's going to be okay, because feedback amongst the student members is very important.
Can I ask you how
yes, yes.
You know, I imagine here is kind of the desirable attitude.
Right,
so
right.
What if you have like half who have the right desirable attitude on this and not on this? How do you compose the group?
Well, a lot of it comes to
not all perfect.
Yeah. My goal is to try to mix and match as much as possible. So I balance personalities, I balance practical issues, and I balance backgrounds, and I balance the numbers thing. Because when you're doing, you know, depending upon the course, numbers in business planning is critical. So, you know, but yeah, that's an excellent question. And it took, you know, as many of you have already said, it takes a lot of time to get groups together, but I'm better informed than I would be if I just asked them to, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself that I used to do in a little bio. So okay. And then I have open-ended questions because, again, part of what I'm doing is presenting them with a survey that looks kind of different and teaches them how to use surveys quickly. And so, have you been a member of a team that struggled to accomplish its goals? And what do you think the reasons, and give an example of how you work through failures. So I'm also trying to have them be proactive and thinking about what went wrong in previous groups and how could they not do that, or how could they avoid that in my class. And then indicate all of your possible times. Okay, one of the things that we have problems with in the US especially, and maybe here as well, is that the students have jobs. They're all working and they don't have the same schedules. And so the biggest complaint that I've gotten, you know, in years past is, well, I'm a Monday, Wednesday, Friday person, and I'm on a team with a Tuesday, Thursday person. And in university, unless you ask, you don't know these things. And so what I tried to do is actually honor that, because even before I designed this the first time, I talked to students. I ran a focus group with several classes. And I asked them, what are the things that are troubling you when you get on these groups? Because we're using groups in so many classes, it's not even funny. Okay, so I mean, this is an important aspect of our teaching, and we need to get it right and not frustrate the students, so you know they're leading the client into a failure zone. So this is just a very simple question of how, when can you meet? And then I really love Qualtrics because it allowed me, this is actually, you can't see it here because this is just a slide, but I asked them to drag these things. So Qualtrics has a question functionality that allows you to make a list and create these little boxes, and you can drag things over like you would in a marketing survey. And so they dragged their best times to meet, and I think I said, there are 3 best times. And in addition, it'll report back to me what their rankings is. So if they pull one up and it's the uppermost one under any of these titles, it'll be ranked as their first choice. And so I actually worked through those and tried to accommodate as much as possible. And I believe that, except for one student, I avoided anything that was in here for any team member. And then the next question is just a sense of their fatigue factor, trying to get at whether or not they're spending a lot of time in other obligations beyond the academic obligation of the class. And I'm also trying to, as I said before, I don't let them necessarily name friends, but I do give them the option to choose one other person that they are confident they can be successful with. And again, I tell them, I can also allow you to choose one person you don't want to work with, because we all know that there's people we don't necessarily work well with or that have failed us in the past. And I don't want, if possible, them to go into a group knowing somebody has been a bad partner previously and immediately thinking the whole semester's down the drain or going to be a negative experience. So then, I like this one because it also looks a little bit, this one actually was for a capstone course for undergraduates. I do this with both. And again, Qualtrics allows you to have a little ladder, and you can pull this down, and actually, because it's a slide, you don't see it, but it will just highlight from A+ down to basically F, which is our grading system. And they can tell you how they usually do in this type of course-based project. So, and again, I'm trying to get them to use this survey to think through their past successes and failures, as well as get information. So here, these were the group ideas that I had originally come up with. And I asked them to rank the ones that they would love to do, the top one they'd like, topic they'd like to be involved with in terms of the research for the semester. And then I said, I can't promise you're going to be in that one, so please tell me also which ones you'd be willing to do, that you're not going to pull your hair out if I put you under that theme. And they were pretty good about that. The next thing that I did was, I usually use groups of 4 because I find, or unless I do groups of 5 or 4, but usually not more. And I create roles, and I develop these roles based on the literature on group management. And these are the 4 roles that I use because I had all groups of 4 in this particular class. And I team client manager, a coordinator, gatekeeper, a lead investigator, and a project finisher. And they were supposed to rank those in terms of where they thought they fit. Now I've had, in all the previous questions, I asked them to think about themselves. So hopefully by the time they get to this question, they've seeded the idea that maybe I fit here and not there. And so the client manager, again, will be the person that deals directly with the client. And if the client has any questions or the team has any questions, that one person will initiate the contact. So 4 people aren't bothering the client. And then the team coordinator and gatekeeper is really almost like a team leader, team manager, but I didn't put leader because I find psychologically that diffuses the energy of all the other group members. The lead investigator is the person that's going to be diligent about library work, getting additional information, overseeing any survey development, market research techniques, looking at the need for checking the veracity of information coming in, double checking facts, things like that. And then the project finisher is really the communication expert, the person that's going to make sure that both written reports to the client and the oral presentation are polished and worthy of a consulting fee. And then, in addition, because I've experienced failure, you know, where students want, you know, a student doesn't perform, I ask them straight out in the survey, what should I do if you come to me and complain about a student? So I don't want the sole responsibility for making that decision. So I need to know from you what you think as a student, from a student perspective, what is the appropriate what is the appropriate solution the instructor should adopt, instead of them just coming to complain, you know, that the student isn't working. And let's see where we are. Okay, that's not another one, right? Yeah. All right, so now I get that information that I just showed you, and I will I will sit there with all the data, and the data comes out as a survey results printout from the Qualtrics system, so it's orderly and organized. But it does take me probably about 2 to 3 hours to weed through it all, and, you know, depending upon the size of the class. So it's a night's activity, but I enjoy it because I'm learning about the students, so I don't mind to do that. And the type of information is such that it gives me a good heads up in terms of how to teach them more as individuals than just as a mass group of people in the classroom. But what I do then is I use an additional survey, a separate one, and I collect information and have them rate the performance as part of the final mark or grade. And Qualtrics, again, is very easy to use because it'll summarize this in means, and I'll be able to have mean scores out of a scale of 5 for each student based on the means provided by their cohorts or by their student colleagues. And for example, this is just one group. This, again, takes a little time because what I do is I create a separate survey. I start with a skeleton survey and I just copy it blank, and then I put in, so I have one survey per team. So each team has 4 members. So say I have survey 1 is for team 1. For the 4 members of team 1 are going to get survey 1, and it's just about them. And so their names are, I put those in, and then I ask them basically to use, and these are the behavioral anchor statements I've decided to use because they seem to be clear to students. Whether I completely act on them is at my discretion, but the mean is what I'm using really. So assume this is a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 5. And then just to show you the very last slide is the way Qualtrics presents the results. I also have in that question an open-ended question that I ask them to tell me why they're putting that number that they do. And so, for example, I had to fit it into one slide, I had to cut pieces of the Qualtrics report and kind of cut and paste them into smaller segments and arrange them on a slide. But again, the names of the students that have been evaluated by their peer students are here. And for example, Zach Aji got a mean of 3.5, and all of the students were, they actually had a group of 5 people, so 4 other students evaluated Zachary, and Zachary gets a mean score of 3.5. So he wasn't the best student in the group, but he at least got above average. And I don't know, and Audra Mazzoni, she had some additional problems, and the other 2 got full weight, and so that was an easy grade, easy mark. But for example, this student, this is the information that came from one of the markers, and that person who rated Mr. Aji basically wrote a little book here about all the things that didn't happen, okay? And sometimes, depending upon it, with a graduate team, what I would do is do this a little bit more often. So I might do it in midterm, might do it early, midterm, and final. With undergraduates and a larger class, I tend to just incorporate this into the final note or grade. And that's pretty much it. Qualtrics is again, an email survey system. We've adopted it. I also use it in addition as a mechanism. Each student has access to Qualtrics, and I instruct them on how to use it to gather the data for their client. And for example, the MBA team that I worked with, we were fortunate because the client had collected over 11,000 emails from people who had visited the winery over the last 5 years before the project. We were able, the client was kind enough to give us the entire email list, and we had well over about 1,300 responses within the first 12 hours of sending out the email. So the student group had a nice set of data to start forming their pro forma and doing some additional analysis. So that's it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions, I guess?
I have a question about putting, I think it's very interesting to form groups like you do it, but since it's multi-criteria,
Yes.
how difficult is it to put it in there? Because if, for example, just taking the schedule, and if you find out that one person is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday person, like you said, but he would be perfect to work with a Tuesday, Thursday person, how difficult is it?
It actually wasn't. It actually wasn't very difficult. What I defaulted at first to looking at the dates, and then I actually went back to students and I said, you know, I'd like to configure the teams this way, and I'm going into your middle preference rather than your top preference, and they were very accommodating, and so I really didn't have. So again, any decision that's probably worthy is complicated. But what I think is what I appreciate about using this is that I'm a big believer in more data does make a better decision. So it's just a question of looking at the different types of data and organizing it in a way that is a compromise of data, but seems to satisfy the needs of the students and the client. So that's kind of a fuzzy answer, but it wasn't as hard as you might think. As I said, it took one night just to form the groups, and the next morning I was able to share the results with them and double check my thinking in 2 cases. So, yeah.
Are you sure that the results of the production of the students configuring groups like that is better than with complete random or with I don't know, affective links? Your method is time-consuming, but it's really good method. But are you sure that the production of the students to the client is better when you construct groups like that? Are you sure of that?
We can't be totally sure, but the small amount of observational time I've put into using this, I would say that it seems to answer a lot of the difficulties that I've dealt with over the years. And I guess I'll ask for a grace period. As I collect data, I may actually start being more rigorous about developing an assessment of the method, because that would be nice, maybe a nice thing to do.
With the results for the client.
The results for the client.
Are you sure that these years that now you're doing this way, the results are better than when you didn't use this method?
Yes, because what I'm seeing is more of a balance and less of a crying. That students, you know. I think what's also important here is I'm getting people in the right roles, because early on in my career I used to let the students identify the roles they'd like to do. And now what I'm saying is, if you want to be the team coordinator, what in your data set, you know. So, but I didn't really get anybody arguing. So I feel pretty good about the amount of data making the decisions now. So, all right, thank you.
I'm in charge of developing continuous education at the IAE, and I am teaching accounting and auditing. And I'm going to present an experiment I did with one group of continuous education. Is to use what we call flipped classroom, en français, comment on appelle ça, classe inversée. The context is that these participants are at the beginning of the Masters of in Management, Control and Audit. And it's their first group, the first class in the IAE. So they're just arriving here. The characteristics of the group is, well, they are highly motivated as it's a beginning. It's continuous education. They need to obtain a degree at the end of the year. It's a small size. This year there were 5, I think. And they have not a lot of time for on-site sessions. So we decided a few years ago to try to have blended sessions, and in fact I have started this year to take this class. I've decided to change the method and to try flipped classroom. The organization is this one. First of all, we have an on-site session, 3.5 hours. And as it's a beginning for them, at the IAE, have quite long time to explain the pedagogical method and the platform operating mode, because it's new for them. And after that, I don't. First, before, I use a theoretical input first, and after exercises, and so, well, very classical thing. And in this new method, I start with an example and just show them a financial statement. They have no idea of what is accounting. But the thing is, I begin with a financial statement. I show them a balance sheet, an income statement, and I say, let's discuss now about it. Some words are maybe something you know. You have an idea what is, for instance, a provision, what is an investment. You have probably an idea, so let's discuss about it. And for me, it's important because they are coming from everywhere, and I don't know exactly what is their level. So it's a way for me to identify the level, to introduce some vocabulary, and because you have not a lot of time to this course, and start a discussion with them. And this is very important because we are in continuous education, so they really like discussing with the teacher and so on. And after that, it takes about 1.5 hours. I start with some theoretical input well, relying with what they said before, because if I see that some subjects are already known, I don't go in the subject and I go to another, okay? And after that, they have 3 e-learning sessions with video exercises, tests, and so on. I can try to show you how is it. So this is our platform with its Moodle. And what this is, and I have started. So you have some videos. It's not me on the video, as you can see. I'm not as good as you, but it is a teacher from the IAE de Paris. And it's at the IAE Paris, they have very short videos on different subjects of accounting. The first one is on the principes fondamentaux, and after with the balance sheet and another for the income statement. It's quite short. It's about 17 minutes, 20, and so on. It's quite short. And I've selected these videos because I think it's not really useful to do something that exists. And it's free, it's on YouTube, and it's it's the IAE Paris, so it's good. And after I've completed this with other things, for instance, documents. So documents written by me, okay, so they can read them, print them if they want. And after you have some quiz. So they have 5 minutes to answer. And they have different questions. So probably some of them, and it's a thing I say when I explain to them how they can use it. If they feel comfortable with the subject, they can go right to the quiz and check. If everything is okay, it's not really useful to see the video, print the documents, do the exercises. But if not, well, they have the choice to either look the videos or just do the exercises. It's open. I don't check what they do with the e-learning session. And the other thing I have, and they have exercises, very classical things. And the exercises, you have not the right answers are not on the platform. Pourquoi ça s'ouvre pas? Ah, il est là-haut. Il est là-haut, ouais. J'ai pas encore l'habitude. Okay. So there are very small exercises. Some of them are a bit longer, but well, it depends. This is the first session, so it's quite easy, and after we go progressing. Okay. Pourquoi il me fait ça? Hop. And after they have the second e-learning session on the same model, and the third e-learning session on other subjects, so that is mobilisation, income statement, and so on. Non, je te veux pas. Okay, so if we go back to what we do after, I have a second on-site session, 3 hours and a half too. And the thing is, I have no theoretical input at any time. I have the goal is only to answer to the questions they have arising from the e-learning session. If necessary, I have the material to do some theoretical input. If the question is, oh well, provision, I don't know, I did not understand exactly what is it, can you explain more? I can do it because I have the material. But at the beginning, I don't know exactly what are the questions. What I have to do is to correct the exercises of the e-learning session, if necessary, because if they say no, it's okay, because they have a lot of exercises. So I can't do a correction of all exercises. So probably they choose the most difficult one, and well, we do that. I have also some complementary exercises if I see that, 3 hours we have finished, so I have to do something more. So I have other exercises in my box. What's the difficulty is to have many pedagogical material, because we don't know exactly when you go into the session how long you will go on the answers, on the exercises, or if you need, if they have understood everything, maybe you have to do something new at this session. Well, that's the the difficulty. But in fact, for this kind of course, which is a refresher course on accounting, which is really the level 1, well, because I don't want to say to the level 0 of accounting, well, it's not a problem to have other material. And the third session on site, it's a synthesis case. We do it in teamwork. Well, when there are 5, it's quite easy. And at the end, I do an oral assessment just to check if everything is right in their head. But it's a refresher course, so I don't need, it's not a real formal exam. It's just a little test just to see if it's okay. Okay. So, well, that's the way I did for this group of continuous education. I use it quite differently, but in this type too, with another group. It's the veterinary students, because they are not, well, a few students. It's a group of between 10 and 15, I think. And they're very motivated, and I think Diane said that it was a point, and that's true, that because you need to have very motivated students. They are very motivated, and they are coming from the class prépa, so you know, they are used to work on their own. And they, well, and they're not waiting for the teachers to do everything. The difference is that we have a final examination and a grading for this, group. From my point of view, well, there's quite a lot of advantages on that way, because the first thing is very interactive. And for the teacher, it's very pleasant, in fact. I prefer that than and PowerPoint, tongue. And well, it's well, very pleasant for the teacher. In fact, personally, I think that the true value of the course is are the explanations, the exchanges you have with the teacher, because in fact, the knowledge is very basic. It's accounting, so okay, everything can do it. Everyone can do it, okay? Difficulties, you have to prepare quite a lot of things, because you don't know exactly how long you will go, how long it will take, and so on. The other difficulty, if you have a group who has not been working a lot before, it's difficult to conduct the on-site after, because if they have not worked before, you can do a lot of things. I tried something a little bit like that with a master group for one session, and it was not possible because they arrived, they did not work before. So I say, okay, have you any questions? No. Okay, well, go to PowerPoint and talk.
Can you check on the Moodle platform in the Connect?
Yes, all of them. That's not a problem. And they can, they can contact me. They have, I think, 15 days between the first session and the second one, and they can contact me by email. So I have, but in fact, the questions are rather on how can I do that than on the contents. How can I do my quiz? I don't know to connect and so on. But on the content, no, not really a lot of questions. Okay, I'm in time, Elise?
So thank you very much for your participation. I think it was very interesting. You talked about MOOC, about quiz and two different kinds of practices with quizzes, and we have experiences with flipped classrooms, so it's very rich. And we'll have another workshop next year, and I hope you will be there, and you will talk about this workshop to your colleagues and to the other participants.
Okay.
So that we will be more people, more participants.